Okay, so the North Atlantic, it's really buzzing with some pretty dramatic news right now, focusing on Greenland, the U.S., and Denmark.
Absolutely. And just to be clear upfront for everyone listening, we're going to navigate these developments based strictly on the information we have from our sources.
Right. No speculation, no personal opinions here. We're just looking at the reported facts.
Yeah, the core issue seems to be these reports about alleged U.S. intelligence activities happening in Greenland and, well, the reactions they've stirred up.
We've got news articles, official reports detailing things, and that's what we'll be drawing from today.
Exactly. So our focus, our mission, if you like, is to understand the different perspectives. What are the key players saying and doing?
All based solely on those facts in the sources. So
Okay.
let's get straight into it. Greenland's perspective first.
Sounds good. Greenland's government came out very strongly. The premier, Jens Frederick Nielsen, he didn't mince words at all.
What did he say exactly?
Yeah. He called any potential spying from the American side in Nuuk completely unacceptable. And he also termed it disrespectful towards an ally and completely abnormal.
Wow. Okay. Strong language. Sets a definite tone.
Definitely. And Nielsen also noted he was satisfied that the acting U.S. ambassador over in Copenhagen was summoned for a meeting.
So, making it clear diplomatically.
The message was unambiguous. Allies don't spy on each other, period.
And it wasn't just the premier, right? The parliament reacted too.
Yeah, the Greenlandic parliament, the Inatsisartut, is involved. Pituffik, who heads the Foreign and Security Policy Committee, actually floated some, well, pretty drastic potential steps.
Like what?
Like considering closing the U.S. consulate in Nuuk. That shows you the level of concern, doesn't it?
Closing the consulate. That's a huge step. But hang on, didn't Nielsen push back on that?
He did, yes. Premier Nielsen rejected closing the consulate. He made the point that the consulate's expansion moving to a bigger place, more staff, that was planned long before this whole situation blew up.
Ah, okay. So, context there. Pre-existing plans.
Right. Not related to these current allegations, according to him.
Interesting. And there were other voices too.
Yes, Aki Matilda Huddam, she's in both the Danish Folketing and Greenland's parliament. She called for setting clear boundaries with the U.S. about these alleged activities.
And what was her take?
Well, interestingly, she said she was, and I quote, unfortunately not surprised, which, might suggest some underlying unease was already there.
Unfortunately not surprised. That is telling. Any other internal Greenlandic points?
There's also some focus on internal politics. Questions were raised by Jens Neptok and Marianne Paviasen Jensen about a meeting the premier had with the Danish prime minister.
What were their concerns?
Reportedly, concerns about whether he was negotiating aspects of the Self-Government Act without, let's say, the proper mandate and maybe a lack of unity within the governing coalition on it.
Okay, so internal dynamics playing out alongside the international ones. Let's shift to Denmark then. How did they react?
Denmark's response was also pretty swift and very direct. The foreign minister, Lars Løkke Rasmussen, confirmed he summoned the U.S. ambassador.
Okay, same move as Greenland requested.
Exactly. To express the kingdom's clear position and just how seriously they're taking these reports of potential U.S. spying in Greenland.
And what was the message from Løkke Rasmussen?
He apparently told the U.S. quite firmly, we will not allow attempts to drive wedges into our relationship within the Commonwealth.
The Commonwealth meaning Denmark, Greenland, and the Faroes.
Correct. And he added that the kingdom's internal affairs are the kingdom's internal affairs. A clear line in the sand.
So, asserting sovereignty.
Very much so. He also stressed that while Denmark is a close U.S. ally, that alliance doesn't mean tolerating spying on each other.
Did the U.S. confirm the Wall Street Journal story to him?
According to Løkke, no. He indicated he didn't get confirmation of the article's claims during that meeting with the ambassador.
Okay. And what about the consulate closure idea? Was that discussed in Denmark too?
It was raised, yes. But Løkke Rasmussen rejected it. He called closing the consulate a very far-reaching decision, especially considering, the close alliance they have with the U.S.
So similar pushback to Premier Nielsen in Greenland on that specific point. It's a balancing act.
It really is. But it's worth noting, the call didn't just come from nowhere. A conservative MP, Rasmus Jarlov, had actually called for closing the consulate back in March.
Oh, earlier.
Yeah, and he apparently reiterated it recently, arguing the consulate, in his view, plays a key role in undermining Greenland. So different opinions within Danish politics on this.
Interesting. Okay, let's turn to the U.S. perspective, based purely on what's been reported in these sources. What's the alleged activity?
Well, the Wall Street Journal report, which sort of kicked much of this off, it allegedly detailed directives from Tulsi Gabbard. Now, one source translates her title as Director of the Intelligence Service. We should be careful. Translation nuances might affect the exact role description.
Right, noted. So what were these alleged directives about?
The report claims the directives instructed intelligence services to identify people in Greenland who support U.S. goals for the territory.
Yeah.
And also to gather information specifically on Greenland's independence movement and, importantly, attitudes towards U.S. resource extraction there.
Resource extraction, okay. That connects to other aspects. What about the consulate itself?
Right. The consulate in Nuuk opened back in 2020. And as Premier Nielsen already pointed out, those plans to move it to a bigger place with more staff were already in motion way before this current controversy.
So the expansion timeline is key context again.
Seems so. And then there's the investment angle.
Ah, yes. Drew Horn, former Trump administration official.
That's him. Now director at a company called GreenMet. He's been talking about working with investors, potentially bringing in, get this, $10 billion.
$10 billion? That's a huge figure. In what sectors?
Apparently looking at Greenland's mining, energy, and fishing sectors. Around 66 billion Danish kroner, roughly.
And has he been active on the ground?
Sources say yes. He's apparently traveled in Greenland, discussed potential investments with politicians, private actors, including, reportedly, Naja Nathanielsen, who is the Minister for Mineral Resources.
Has Minister Nathanielsen commented?
She provided a written response, confirming she meets investors regularly. But she also mentioned postponing a meeting with Drew Horn, citing her travel schedule, but also, significantly, the current political sensitivity around U.S. intentions.
So acknowledging the sensitive timing.
Exactly. And she stressed the need to respect Greenland's right to decide its own future.
What about Drew Horn himself? Has he responded to suspicions?
He has. He stated his investors respect Greenland's desire for independence, and he specifically denied being some kind of Trojan horse trying to exert U.S. soft power.
Okay, so pushing back against that narrative.
Right. It adds another dimension to this whole picture of U.S. engagement, both political and economic.
Now let's loop back to Greenland for a moment. You mentioned internal dynamics earlier, but there's another layer, isn't there? Accusations flying in other directions too.
Yes, quite dramatically. Pele Broberg, he's the leader of the Naleraq Party, which advocates for independence. He's actually accused Denmark of spying on Greenland.
Denmark spying on Greenland. What's the claim?
He used the term extreme espionage. He alleged it's being done by the Danish press, the government, and politicians in Denmark who oppose Greenlandic independence. He even claimed interference in election campaigns.
Wow. Okay, that's a serious counteraccusation.
Yeah.
So, given that, Naleraq must support closing the U.S. consulate then?
Actually, no. This is where it gets complex. Pele Broberg and Naleraq are against closing the U.S. consulate.
Against it, why?
His reasoning, reportedly, is that closing it does not go at all in line with the claim that one is working against independence. It shows the intricate political calculations, doesn't it?
It really does. Different factions, different priorities, even within the independence movement, perhaps.
And just to round that off, those Section 37 questions we mentioned earlier, raised by members of Naleraq and Inuit Ataqatigiit about the premier's meeting with Denmark, they just further highlight these differing views within Greenland's coalition government itself.
It's a really tangled web, isn't it? You've got alleged U.S. activities, strong reactions from Greenland, diplomatic moves by Denmark, potential huge investments, and accusations flying between Greenland and Denmark.
Absolutely. It really paints a picture of the complex political and economic forces at play right now in the North Atlantic, especially surrounding Greenland and its relationships with both the U.S. and Denmark. Lots of strong feelings and very different viewpoints.
Okay, that's where we'll leave our Out Deep Dive for today, sticking strictly to the reported information from our sources.
Like and subscribe to PalsFundamentals on YouTube for more videos like this, sources linked below.